We are recording. Eric, you are good to go. Jen, you are a co-host, so you can manage the room.
Perfect.
And we're good to go. I'm going to be in an appointment at 1 o'clock, but if you need me, you can come get me. It will be fine. Yeah, I'm good with it. All right.
Hey Jenny, can you hear me now?
I can, but not the greatest.
How about now? Not really.
I mean, I can. I had to turn my volume way up.
How about now?
Now I can hear you.
So basically, I need to talk loud. Goody. This is Eric.
We're newbies. I got sick care. I'd rather be here than hang out with my 3 kids anyway.
Hi, I'm Robert. Nice to meet you.
She was. Oh,
I thought we had to.
fine then.
I thought we had to be on the chat and.
No, I would. Go with people on. Are you doing that one tomorrow, Amber? Business launch, I think? I'm sorry. So that is not on the calendar, you said? It's like, it's basically the whole end process, how to get paid, kind of like the process of like how everything is submitted. and works.
Oh, all right, yeah, so that's basically the same thing. So 9:30, 12:30.
Yep.
And then
1 to 3, yeah. And here she
I
said,
get to sign up.
she said it's like a personal invite, so just email her and say you want to. I would just email her. and say you want to do that. The only reason I know is because she had mentioned it. Of that half-hour one. Not on the calendar.
We'll give it another minute. Then we'll start.
But it's posted. Training comes in before pandemic or it's all just because of this.
Yeah, we didn't even have, I didn't even know what Zoom was. Before the pandemic, we did, I did, what's the one that used to be popular?
Oh.
Yes, I mean,
Like
there was
before,
another one.
Yeah, Skype.
Skype, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I used that for a fantasy football draft way back in the day.
Yeah,
That
Never
was-
business.
That was the extent of it, no, yeah.
You're right.
Uh,
okay.
I'm surprised Skype, like, I mean,
I know, right?
probably still is big, right?
Perfect opportunity, and then like, now we can't even remember who they are.
I mean, I was doing Zoom classes though, you know, my, senior year at college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this Skype is not. Everyone uses
Promote
it,
themselves.
everybody.
All right, we're gonna start. Can everybody hear me okay out there? One person say yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Amber says we have problems with these, because I'm not wearing the speaker thing I normally do, so if something happens, you guys just obviously, I don't know. Then, well, you guys can call me or text me or something. So this is an open house class. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm a capper. I was on the ALC 3 times. I'm 5 years old in the business. 5 years ago, I moved here from the other side of the state. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any way to lead gen. So I started doing open house. My first year, I did not cap. I wasn't I wasn't very motivated. I worked very hard, right? But then my second year, I started really trying. I kept in 6 months. The year after that was 3 months or 2 months. I don't remember. 95% of my business for the first 3 years in the business was all open house. I did 7 million in sales. And again, like we really don't do any other too much lead gen. My GCI last year was $230,000, and that came from mostly open houses. And if it wasn't open houses, it was somebody that I met in an open house that I've already sold a home to, that they've given me a referral. So if you're new in the business, you don't have to know anybody to start. I know it makes it a whole lot easier, but you don't have to know anybody. You can do it completely through open houses. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so some things I say today, because I've given this class for like 3 years now. Some things I say today are gonna apply less than normal, and some will apply, directly to what the pandemic we're in. I think the market is starting to change a little bit. You can see it. I listed a house, and then I listed the same house a month later. I got 11 offers on the first one. The second one was nicer. I got 2. That was recently. So I think it's starting to change just a little bit, but again, like anybody who tells you they know what the market's doing is full of crap, because we're all guessing. It's right. But as it loosens up, I'll go back to, I really haven't done open houses. I did like 1 or 2 this last summer just because I had listings and it was easy. But I've closed deals this year from open houses that I did in January. So there you go. All right. So the purpose of the open house. The purpose of the open house is not to sell the house, right? So you might get lucky, you might sell the house. That's really not the purpose of it. The purpose is to lead gen, right? You want people, you want names, you want their information, you want clients out of it, right? So that's what I'm going to teach you today is how I do it. I say this in every class I teach. I've taught Ignite classes and other things. So what I'm going to tell you today is not necessarily right or wrong, but it's what I do. It's what I've done to be successful, and you'll all put your own twist on things that I've done. So the purpose of the open house is simply to get leads out of it, right? Now you might get lucky and you might sell the house. I personally have never sold a house. I've probably done 300 open houses. I've never sold one. So I had one that I put under contract, and I met the buyers. I was doing somebody else's open house, met the buyers, put it under contract. They had a death in the family. It all fell apart, but I would have sold it. But okay, the other one I kind of did, but it was my own listing, and it was my own buyers that came to the listing. So I double dipped that one. But that one, I don't really count that one. I'm talking about like meeting people that day and selling them that house. Well, other people have done it, just not me. But really, it's about a 1% chance of doing it, right? So my open house process starts on Monday or Tuesday. The first thing you want to do is you want to identify the home you're going to do the open house for. All right. So you want something obviously that's going to give you traffic. You want something that's going to be in your price point, right? So if you're going to do an open house, the way I look at it is, if I'm going to sell a house, like, and I'm going to do an open house in a $400,000 house, I'll find $400,000 clients. You do it in a $200,000 house, you'll find $200,000 clients. Which would you rather sell? I personally like the bigger checks as opposed to the smaller checks. So I do ones that are a little bit more expensive if I can. My sweet spot has over the years has been that 400. It's probably a 500 price point now, because it used to be a 400 price point. Now it's a 500 price point because of the prices that have gone crazy. I like to do the same neighborhood over and over and over again if I can. It's simply having my signs out there every weekend. People see your signs, marketing, total return points, however you want to call it. I'm looking for a house that has not been on the market long. Again, right? So the market we're in right now, nothing's on the market long. If something's on the market a month right now, it's an absolute dog, right? If it's been on the market, a month, there's something wrong.
Well, so like even 7 days, I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, it just, again, it depends on where you're at, right? So, really, even at 7 days, it's kind of stale. So we're hoping this switches in the next couple months. I mean, we're hoping it switches too, and we go back. I mean, I personally am, because that's where I get my business from, right? I'm hoping to go back to a balanced market. So last year I did 9 million in sales. This year I may not hit that, right? So I have like 7.6 in the can right now. So I need another 3-4 deals, you know what I mean, to get back to where I was. So and again, like I may have done 10 open houses this entire year, and typically I'm doing 6 a month. So I mean, I do a lot of open houses. I enjoy doing it. Some people don't like it. I do. So I'm looking for the first thing I'm looking for, and this pretend we're in a balanced market, okay? So the first thing I'm looking for is how many days on the market has it been, right? Like I'm not doing something that's 35 days old, right? I'm looking for something that's 7 or less. I'm looking for something that photographs well, that has good pictures, that's cutesy. Okay, I call it cutesy, right? It's updated, it's nice. So even though this is not going to be your listing, you're going to do it, people will associate you with this listing. Okay, so the number of times that people will walk into a house, they'll see a woman's picture on the front, on the sign, and walk in and ask me if I had any other listings besides this, and I go, well, I really don't even have this one. So, but people will associate you with that house. Okay.
That's what I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, so active days. I want active days. Everybody, if you can search, you can search an MLS. You can look for active days on market, and you can put it for 14 or less. The other thing I like to do is I prefer to do a vacant home just because it's easier. I can show up ahead of time. On days like in the summertime when it's 90 degrees, I'm not running around putting my signs up like this, right? I mean, I'm wearing shorts and a polo shirt, and I'll get there. I'll leave my house a half hour early to not have to sweat in the summertime. So I'll get there and I'll change right at the house. Sometimes you don't have enough. I mean, I'm not saying don't do ones that are not vacant, right? Because you can be successful doing either one. Just it's easier when I'm hunting for an open house. I'm looking at again, like the neighborhood, right? Like I'm not going to do an open house in Land O'Lakes, right? I'm not going to do this in the open house. I like my own neighborhood. I like something that I can talk about, educated, right? Okay, so we have a beach condo, right? Now I would do it at my beach condo because I know a lot about that, right? But I'm only going to do places that I can really talk about it well, just because it'll be later in the class. You're trying to form a bond with people. If you can check out the house in advance, that really helps. I agreed to do one time and showed up like and there was roaches all over the floor. It was a hot mess. I was like, oh my God. Because you know, realtors make things look nice and pictures, obviously. So if you can see the house, that's gonna make it better. I also showed up to an open house one time, hadn't been in it, and the power wasn't on. And it was June. That was brutal. That was a tough one right there. So you can check out the house. A lot of times you'll see on Facebook, hey, I've got an open house if somebody wants to do it. And that's great. And everybody in the office means well and they try to help you out. But you're going to spend 5 hours of your time. Okay. So I typically do an open house for 3 hours. By the time you make your flyers, by the time you put out your signs, by the time you pick up your flyers, you've got 5 hours invested in this. Okay. And if you've got 5 hours invested in it and one person shows up, that's bad. That's a bad use of your time. You don't want to do that. Especially, I know you said you got 3 kids, right? Now you might try to get away from them. But in general, if you've got family things and it's typically you're going to do a weekend. Now I've done any day of the week, but typically, obviously, your best ones are the weekends. So you want to pick the right house, making sure you get traffic through. Picking the right house. How do I find that house? So I put it in MLS. I draw maybe I use the map function in MLS. I find, I'm looking for vacant. I'm looking for anything less than 7 days. I'll put my price point in there and I'll say, boom, what shows up. Now, typically I'm looking for that on a Monday. That's tough to do right now when things don't last on MLS for, 7 days. So you might be looking like Wednesday or Thursday to doing this process. It's tough, but again, hopefully we get back to a normal market and we can do stuff. When I'm looking for that house, I'm looking at any brokerage. I don't care who it is. For my first, golly gee whiz, I want to say 3 years in the business, I would say I got I did 0 closings from a Keller Williams open house, right? And I've done all different kinds of open houses. I've done our brokerages, Caldwell Banker, Remax, small brokerages, Mahara, Charles Rutenberg, you name it. I've made a lot of contacts out there and I have a lot of relationships with people. It got to the point a couple of years ago where agents from other brokerages would call me and ask me if I wanted to do an open house. I got a call from a Charles Rutenberg guy 3 months ago, and I had done an open house for him 3 years ago. And he said, hey, I remember you. I've got something coming up and I don't remember what. I didn't do it. I didn't have time to. But yeah, people would call me. When you're picking a house, if you can avoid being in a gated neighborhood, it's easier. It depends on the gate, okay? So if it's a manned gate, that's easy to get through, right? For instance, in West Chase, and I'll reference West Chase a lot because I live there, there's a neighborhood called the Greens. And if you roll up to that guard check and say, I'm going to the open house, they just wave you right through, okay? There are other neighborhoods that are harder. Water Chase, that gate's a bear, right? So those people are a pain in the butt. So like I've never had very good success doing open houses in there. But West Chase and the Greens, yeah, really good. You also got the gates that have a little punchy codes on it. So if you're doing one in a neighborhood that's got the punchy codes, what do? When you put your sign out front, you put your sign right in front of the punchy code thing. That's a technical term, punchy code. And then I tape a little instructions right to it. I say, hey, please call or text, right? The problem with that is, so let's say I've got a really good lead. I'm sitting here talking to Bob, and Bob and I are having a great conversation. And my phone rings, and it's I'm like, all right, hey Bob, I gotta take this, right? This could be somebody asking for the gate case. You have to answer every call, even a car warranty one. Right? You call, and it's a sweet little old lady. I go, yeah, I want to come to the open house. So I go, great. The code's 1, 2, 3, 4. And she goes, now what do I do? Okay, hit the pound button, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not opening. If you hit the pound button. Meanwhile, I'm having a great conversation with Bob here. Bob says, hey Eric, man, it was great to meet you. And he walks out the front door. There goes my lead because I'm dealing with somebody with a punchy code. Okay. Or I get the text. People will text me too. So in a perfect world, I avoid those, but I've done a ton of them and been successful at it. So just In a perfect world, I wouldn't do it. So being successful at generating leads in an open house, the first most important thing is obviously pick the right house. You pick the wrong house and you don't get traffic, you've just wasted 5 hours of your time. All right. I will do the same house over and over again. Not in this market, right? Because it doesn't work. But there was a house in West Park Village that I probably did 10 open houses in over the course of 5 weeks. It was vacant. It wasn't my listing. It wasn't my broker. But I pulled so many clients out of that. I mean, I probably got 6, 7 closings out of that one house. Yeah, and like now they're starting to like those people that I sold the house to way back, and now they're getting to list the house. So, so I'll do the same house as long as I continue to get traffic. I'll do the same house over and over and over again. Any questions on choosing a house?
Are you just texting the listing agent asking?
No, yes, maybe sometimes, right? So it's going to depend on the agent, right? Do I know the agent? Do I not know the agent? After you do this for a while, and again, I have done, I don't know the count, but probably 300 open houses, just a ton, right? So there are some agents I know, don't bother calling them because they're going to say no, right? The agents that are in my market, I know the names, right? Don't ask Amanda Sipcott, she's going to say no, okay? Yeah, right, don't ask Amanda Sipcott, she's going to say no. But I'll pick up the phone and call and say, hey, you know, my name's Eric, I live here in West Chase, I saw you have a listing with vacant. I live in the neighborhood, you know, how would you like to get generate some traffic and use some leads? So I'll do any number of different things. I'll pick up the phone, I'll send an email, I'll send a text, depending on the person. But basically, especially now, you gotta be like a dog with a bone, right? It's just like getting the lead. You gotta go out there and nobody's just gonna call you and say, hey, I've got a great open house and it's in your neighborhood, right? So you gotta track it down. So there are some people that will just say no. They'll say no, we do our own. I had an old guy tell me one time that was illegal, that I couldn't do that. And I was like, all right, got it.
Any particular brokerage that has a policy with that?
No, it varies by the agent, really. Like I've not had good luck with Smiths and Associates, but that's just the people that, like, those are the agents that are right in my neighborhood, and I know them. And I didn't have, at the time, I did not have a very good I wouldn't say a bad relationship, but I didn't like her, just because she was short and snobby with me a lot. But there was a couple different $1 million houses we were kind of going back and forth and dealing with. And so I've dealt with her a lot in the past year and a half. And honestly, if she had one that was really good, I'd ask her again, because she probably doesn't remember I asked her 5 years ago, right? So I would probably go back to that well again, but I would probably get told no. But it is what it is.
How do you like typically react? Like, are most people like
Very,
mad or they're like?
no, very, very surprising. Like I've had agents say, oh my God, that's awesome, thank you. I've had agents say, no, we don't do that thing. And that's it, right? You're going to get rejected a lot in life, right? So just ask. Don't take it personal, right? It's just like trying to get leads at an open house. Some people are going to just, you know, you're going to try to convert a lead and they're just going to say no, no. And about, you know, usually about a minute in, you realize, okay, I'm spinning my wheels here. And then you just move on to somebody else. So yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag as to what you get for a reaction on that. Okay, any questions on picking a house? All right. So marketing wise, so you can door knock. I door knocked early on in the beginning, and I didn't get anything out of it. And I don't want you to take that as okay, Eric didn't get anything out of it, so I'm not going to door knock, right? Maybe I wasn't good at it. Maybe I didn't do it well. I don't know. But I just didn't get much out of the time and effort I put into doing it. But really, if you're doing an open house on Sunday, just to go knock on 20 doors Saturday afternoon and go up to the door and say, hey, just wanted to let you know, I'm doing an open house down the street tomorrow. If you guys want, everybody loves to look at their neighbors, come poke through their house. Come on, come by and say hi to me, right? Or something like that. And the people are they're either gonna grunt You go, okay, and the door is gonna start to shut on you, or they're gonna say, oh, really, who's selling the house? Oh, it's the Johnsons. Oh, the Johnsons, oh, they're really sweet. And then you start having a conversation with somebody, okay? If you got the time to do it, I say do it. But it's, I wasn't good at it. But there are people in this office that, like, I know Gloria's field doorknobs, or at least she did back, I don't know, this has been a couple of years ago. And she used to teach a class on doorknobs. I know that Vince, Shelley's husband, I know Vince door knocks a lot, and I know he gets stuff out of it, right?
He does it very well.
Mhm.
People are like, they're soliciting. He's like, I'm offering service.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for
and
anything.
yeah, and he's scary looking. He looks like a
Yeah.
pirate. I'm just kidding. That long hair he's got now. But I know he does it a lot. So if you want a door knock, go call Vince. Say, hey, Vince, can I follow you? When are you gonna door knock again? I'll just stand right behind you. I won't make a noise, right? So yeah, so just I guess everybody's got their thing, right? Like you see people in the office that call for a sale by owners, or at least back in when the business was normal, they were on the phone. They call for a sale by owners. They call expires. I've never picked up the phone in my life, right? I would much rather do an open house than somebody in person. So my background before I was a realtor, I ran restaurants, right? So I dealt with customers and I dealt with employees and I dealt with people all day long. That's all I did. And just when you walk up to a table and say, hey folks, my name's Eric, I'm the manager. How was everything today? You have no idea what's coming out of their mouth. Really, this is the worst food I've ever had in my entire lifetime. You're like, oh, okay, you hope they're joking, but sometimes they're not, right? So being in the service industry, I dealt with complaints all the time, right? Not if I run a restaurant, but so I dealt with my fair share of complaints. And sometimes there's nothing to do about it. But that opportunity to turn a complaint into a lifelong customer, it's the same thing as doing an open house in my case. I had a lady come through one time and she told me that she hated Keller Williams agents. Flat out told me that, right? It was like, I'll never remember this. I'll never forget this. I was in Green Hedges. Again, the gated community where you get to drive through over in Westgate. She came in with her daughter and a baby. And she said, she goes, I hate, well, just so you know, I hate Keller Williams agents. Oh, okay. Wow. Well, it turns out she's been a kind of a part-time agent in Missouri, right? There's no, if there had been anybody else in the house, I'd have said, good. And I'd have walked away and had to come and talk to somebody else, right? But she was the only one there. So I had a great conversation with her. We talked. And she goes, what about this house? I saw this house. I was like, oh, I've seen that house. Oh, he's like, and I talked to her. She goes, you really know your stuff. And I was like, well, I kind of do this for a living. So yeah, I know what I'm talking about, right? So this lady that told me she hates Keller Williams agents, her name is Lori. I have now sold her between her and her two daughters and 3 referrals, I think. I lose count. It's like 10 properties that I met this lady in an open house and she told me she hated it. So yeah. So anyway, so the marketing. Again, like I don't know how to use a computer. So my wife does my flyers and stuff for me, and I didn't bring a copy of one, but at the end of this, if you want to grab my card or you guys online, if you want to type it in the chat box or whatever, but she just does it through command, I think. And she just makes up the flyers for me. Taking a step back because I forgot something. So once you've identified your house, okay, and again, this is important, identify the right house. So once we've identified the house, the very first thing you want to do is you want to ask that agent, hey, will you please put the open house in MLS for me, right? It's not your listing. You can't put it in MLS. They have to put it in MLS. You would be surprised the number of agents who A, don't know how to do that, or B, just flat do it wrong, right? So you say, hey, can you please put that open house, it's really going to increase your traffic and it's going to increase my leads, right? Open house goes into MLS. MLS pulls into Zillow, Realtor.com, or whatever site they're looking at. So you want to get that in there right away. Sometimes it takes Zillow a while to populate, and anymore, it seems like it's taking Zillow longer to populate. Who knows why, right? But my rule of thumb was always have it in MLS 48 hours prior to that open house. If I get somebody to say yes to my open house on Tuesday, on Wednesday, I'm gonna go on my computer and check, and I'm gonna make sure that open house is in there. I'm gonna make sure they didn't mess up the AM/PM, they didn't do that. Make sure they didn't mess up the day. I've had people put the wrong year in for me. But I'm gonna verify that house is in there. Again, you're spending 5 hours of your time, and if that open house is not an MLS, and it's not pulling into Zillow, if you've chosen the right house in the right neighborhood, Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever they're looking at should be 50% of your traffic should be coming out of that, right? Literally, yeah. But the number of times that I've had an agent tell me they don't know how to do it, swear to God. Agents that you look, and I didn't used to be, but not a stalker now. So I look up agents all the time. Right? I go to market reports, and there I didn't know how to do it until recently. Yeah, there's a lot of things there, but like you've just done a ton of business. So I was like, you don't even know how to put it in MLS. Anyway, you get great training in Keller Williams, and other agencies just don't have the training you do. So that's a little bit. But make sure it gets an MLS and make sure it gets in there right away. Sometimes it takes a while to pull it. Anyway, anything you get for free for marketing, you do it, right? Like before I taught this class, another person taught this class, right? And so I took it. His name was Rick, and he was in this office. Rick taught this class on open houses, and I took it, and I thought, wow, hey, I could do that. Very similar to the class I'm teaching now about my stuff. So, hey, I can do that. And then I took this class again, just like a year later to see if he learned anything, new tricks or whatever, right? He would do like Craigslist, put the open house in Craigslist. I've never done that. And I'm probably not going to do that. The way I look, that's kind of like garbage in, garbage out in my opinion, but anything else, right? Like Facebook, your Facebook business page, LinkedIn, there's like open house. There's all different kinds of Facebook groups for real estate in Tampa. Like there's Open House Galaxy, something or other. There's like the 100K Club, Tampa Bay Realtors. That's got like 3,000 members. But you never know who's like. Yeah, there's a lot of realtors in that group, but there's also other people in there, and it's free. So anywhere you can put it, you put it in there for free. Okay. So that's what I do prior to going on to this. So the day of the open house. This is my open house uniform. I wore it today. Typically, if you see me in the office, you will see me in t-shirt and shorts and slides. But this is my open house, minus the shoes. These are more comfortable shoes. I actually wear real shoes when I'm doing an open house. And I put a name tag on, which I do have in my pocket, probably from the last time I did an open house. As otherwise, I never wear it. I don't use a name tag. That's not good, right? Like I think it has to, you know, find my name is. We'll do like drive that. So the day of the open house, this is how I dress. I told you, like, if it's super hot out, I'll change it to business, right? I'm going to leave the house. I'm going to show up to this open house early, right? I'm always going to show up early. And I'm always going to stay late. That same house, that Greenwood house I was telling you about that I met that lady. I met a guy named Jurgen who showed up 10 minutes after as I was putting my stuff in the car. And he says, can we see the house? And I'm like, so I turn around, I pop open the house again. And it turns out Jurgen's from Germany and his daughter lives here. And he's just trying to find something that he can, when he comes here, he doesn't have to stay with his daughter. He doesn't have to stay in a hotel. He's just looking for a house in America, right? I said, yeah, well, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I'd like to keep it under $1 million. We can do that, Jurgen. I'm perfect. I'm sure we can find you something for under $1 million. Okay. He was looking at $700,000, but he ended up buying like a $400,000 house. But still, stay late, show up early. All right. So put up my signs. These are my signs. I usually buy a set of these every year because they get beat up. I buy them at, it's either called Signs Now or Image 360. I forget which is the old name and which is the new name. Yeah, these should be $10 a piece. Okay, they should come with bases. All right, so you can design your own, you can just call and say, hey, I want the Keller Williams one where I get them for $10 a piece, and you get those signs made. I think they require a deposit now where they used to not do that, so you might have to go in or take a credit card over the phone, something like that. But yeah, they're $10 a piece. So when I get them, I usually get 20 every year, but again, this year, I think it's 6 or 8 good shit. The other thing I do, and this is something small and something stupid, but if you do as many open houses as I do, I get these really sturdy bases, because the bases they give you with the signs are crappy, right? And you've got any kind of hard ground at all, and you're trying to get it in the ground, it's impossible. I walk up and I go, boom, jam this in the concrete, and I walk away. So again, like if you're out there sweating your butt off, playing Frogger, going across the line ball, yeah. And I don't know where I get these bases, my wife does. So if you want to know where they go, I'm just gonna go. So signs, I'm putting up as many signs as I possibly can to the point of, well, stopping before it becomes obnoxious. You see the same sign on the same, you see 5 signs on the same corner, that's obnoxious, okay? But, so people are driving 50 miles an hour down line ball. I'll walk 150 yards down and I'll put a sign, and then I'll put one 100 yards away, and then I'll put one at the corner. The reason why people are driving 50 miles an hour, they pull for, hey, there's an open house sign, and they go drive by, right? So I put them there. Obviously, all the turns leading up to the house. I will look online in advance and see where other open houses are on the same day. If they're anywhere close to the region, anybody that's going to that open house and leaving that open house is going to see my sign as well, right? So maybe they didn't see your house sign, whatever. But, and maybe this, and again, like you're not going to sell a house. So maybe this house is too expensive for them or not expensive enough, whatever. But still, I've gone to a lot of open houses myself, right? Like I'll be driving if I'm off or I'm not doing anything. I see a sign for an open house, I stop in and I look and I meet the agent, right? And half the time they're busy or whatever, so you don't really get to talk to them. But you're in there and you're listening. 95% of agents do not do a very good job of doing open houses. They're just not very good at it. And usually I'm in the house for about 3 seconds and I can tell, okay, this agent's not very good, right? So again, like they're not capturing those leads. Put the signs there so they're going your way. There are apartments near where I live in my neighborhood there that I pulled a ton of people out of, right? Like a ton of clients out of those apartments. I probably can't even remember all the names that I pulled out of there. I pulled one out this year. Those people are paying between $1,800 and $2,400 for townhouses in there. So they've got the money to buy a house. They've got the money to buy the house. So anybody leaving those apartments, they're going to see my sign. It is not uncommon for me to put out all 20 signs for different directions. And yeah, so it takes a little while. But I'm putting up a ton of signs. So I got my signs out. So I get to the house, I'm going to set up. If it's that one of the 5 days a year that it's nice enough to open the patio doors, I'll do that. Turn on all the lights. Make sure the toilet's flush if it's a vacant house, just in case some, if you don't have parents come in and say, oh, John, you need the toilet, and you don't want to find out the hard way. So I'll bring some, again, COVID, right? Like usually I'll bring some bottled water and I'll throw them in the fridge on a hot day. If it's not hot, I don't bring bottled water. I don't do cookies. I don't do food. Nobody ever comes to an open house and says, oh, well, work with this guy. He's got cookies, right? So, especially COVID, right? Who's going to bring a cookie now? I'll put on some, maybe some classical or some easy listening music, not too loud because I don't want to drown out what I'm saying. Make sure the lights are up. Make sure it's bright in the house. So even though you know darn well you're not selling this house, and the agent who let you do the open house knows darn well you're not selling the house, right? Half the time they're just doing it so they can go to their seller and say, hey, look, Mr. Seller, I'm busting my butt for you. I got an open house. Well, they didn't do a darn thing, right? But they're going to take credit for it. And I don't care, they take credit for it. But you still want to make the house look good. Yeah, check those codes. Everything I tell you today. So everything I tell you, I've done wrong at one point or another. I promise. I'll put a sign on the door And I didn't bring my bag. I'll put a sign on the door that says, please come in or something like that. Because nothing sucks worse than you're sitting there working at a good lead and somebody rings the doorbell. And you got to go answer the door. Meanwhile, and then as soon as you answer the door, it's that same little old lady that starts playing 100 questions with you, right? And she's playing 100 questions with you. Meanwhile, Bob over here, who's a good lead, you're trapped with this little old lady. Bob says, hey, it's great to meet you, Eric, and walks out the door. You're like, I don't have Bob's phone number. All right. So you put that sign up, it's important. I've got a sign-in sheet, which I sometimes use, sometimes. The sign-in sheet's always there, but I never require anybody to sign it, okay? Some people will use technology, they'll do like the iPads and stuff like that. I'm not a technology person. I don't like technology, I don't use technology. Thank God my wife is really, really good at it, so yeah, otherwise I'd be in super huge trouble. But I would just learn it. So I've got a sign-in sheet. I've got my own flyers, which essentially is just pictures of the house and MLS stapled to it, my name and phone number on, okay? Occasionally I'll run into somebody after I teach this class and they'll, yeah, say, I went to go do it for so-and-so, and they wanted me to give out their flyers with their names on it at the open house. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. I was like, well, they insist, but then don't do their open house. Why you can market to them if they're doing the work, right? I've had people say, yeah, they want me to use their sign. No, no, don't do that. There's a KW person that does that. So, don't do it. You'll figure it out for me. It's not always fun. All right, so we're all set up. If it's Halloween, I might do a little bit, but that's about it. Mostly it's just to get it out of my own. All right. Any questions so far? We've chosen the right house. We're all set up and ready to go. Any questions out there in computer land? No? Go.
So when you want to put on social media, your Facebook or these groups, the listing agent pictures or their posts.
I use their pictures. Like once they agree to let me do their open house, I might say, hey, I'm going to use the pictures for social media or something like that. But nobody ever gives a crap about that. If they've already agreed to let you do the open house, you're good.
And where do you get it from? Where do you just MLS or?
That's an excellent question.
On command. Okay. You could do it. There's even design and stuff. You can create in-house flyers. Okay. What I do. And yeah, and there's something called KWOS. So listing services. Okay. It imports all the, if you put in their MLS number or address right there, it pulls it straight from MLS, all the pictures, and you select them.
Yeah.
And it pulls from MLS, it doesn't have to color and agent. No, it can do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So I've never made a flyer in my life. Answer your question. I don't know. My wife was on. I don't know if she's on here anymore. She said she's on here. So I've never made a flyer in my life, so I don't know how to do it. But as I understand it, it's very easy now. So I mean, you got to tell me the flyer within 10 minutes of that flyer. So. Depends on the. I mean, if I know if I've got a 400 price point that looks cutesy in West Chase on a Sunday and it's only 3 days old, I'm gonna do at least 20, right? Because I'm not gonna run out while I'm there. So I'm gonna do at least 20. So. Pick up the phone when you're asking for the So many agents do not pick up a phone, right? They just don't pick up a phone. I'll do listings and I'll get offers and I'll get offers, right? And I've never talked to this person. It just boggles the mind that this person hasn't picked up the phone and called me. But whatever. I mean, I'm picking up the phone, right? And again, I don't make phone calls because I don't do the expires and all that stuff. But when it comes to that, pick up a phone. So they could ignore an email or a text a lot easier than they can ignore your phone call. So there you go. All right, so we're all set up. Any other questions? We're all.
I'm just in how to get the contact. That's what I struggle with.
There's two, yeah. So there's two. If you only learned two things today. Number one, what's number one? We already talked about it. pick the right freaking house, because you're gonna spend 5 hours of your time. Who wants to waste 5 hours on a Saturday? You could be watching college football. You could be watching your Spartans go 6-0. On Sunday, you're watching NFL, watching the fantasy stuff today. All right. So that's the first thing. So the people show up, right? So I'm ready to go. I'm in my uniform, the uniform that I wear. Hi, Mike Idor.
Hi.
I'm in the uniform that I wear. People show up. I've got my flyers in this little plastic thing. People show up and I'm going to grab them. So they walk in the door. I'm going to grab my flyer and I'm going to walk up and say, again, like this is the olden days, right? So I go, hi, my name's Eric. And they're going to put their hand out and they're going to shake my hand and they're going to tell me their name, right? So again, you can't shake hands anymore, right? So the first thing is you got to get their name. However you get their name. Hey, my name's Eric, you want to get their name, right? So when the people come in, sorry, I walked off camera. So when people come in, and so what I do is I want to tell them 1 or 2 things about the house that they can't see, okay? So maybe it's, hey, the roof is brand new. The AC is 2 years old. These are real hardwood floors in case they can't tell. The pool is salt water, whatever it is, right? I say, hey, the pool, salt water, blah, blah, blah. If you did water, you say, hey, there's water in the fridge if you like, all right? So my introduction is usually very, very short, right? People don't want, you ever go to a car lot where the guy just ambushes you and you're like, for God's sake, can you please just let me walk around this car lot? I'll come find you when I need something, right? I like the guy who walks up to me and says, my name is Bob. We got a sale right now. I know you don't want me to follow you around, so I'm not going. Let me know when you need something. That's my kind of guy, okay? And I think that's most people's kind of guy, personally. So I'm going to say, like, again, a couple things they can't see. I'll tell them there's water if they want it. I'm going to hand them a copy of the flyer. And I'm going to, at that point, the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to direct traffic, okay? So if you're in a typical, let's say you're in a typical 4-3 split, Rutenberg, whatever it is, right? Right. So typically the master's one way or the other, okay? The master's right over here. This is the master bedroom, right? Or the master bedroom is this way. What's Bob going to do? As soon as I say the master bedroom's that way, Bob's going to go, oh, master bedroom. And he's going to walk in the master bedroom. Why do you do that? It's something very, very small. But if you've chosen the right house and you have a lot of traffic and you tell Bob where to go, right? Bob's going to go that way. There's going to come a time in the middle of the house when they're maybe 1/2 to 2/3 of the way done that I'm going to ambush it, okay? And if Bob goes this way and John comes in, he goes this way, and they both get halfway through the house and meet in the middle, I've got a decision to make as to who I try to capture, Bob or John. I don't want to have to make a decision, right? Because I'm always going to, it's like going to the grocery store. I'm always going to pick the wrong way. I always pick the wrong way. So the only reason I do that, and again, like, what does it pay off? Maybe like 1 in 50 times. Does it actually help? Right? But still, I'm going to do it that way. I do it that way. Right? So I'm going to tell Bob, hey, Bob's going to walk out that way. Right? It's Bob and Carol. That's who it is. So as Bob and Carol walk away, they go into the master bedroom. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around. I'm going to take my pen out of my pocket. And this is called a pocket rocket or a filing system, whatever you want to call it. I check it out and I write Bob and Carol on it because I walked off camera. I'm going to write Bob and Carol on this because 99.9% of the time I'm going to forget Bob's name before he's even in the master bedroom. I'm terrible at it. If you're good at it, great. You don't have to do it. But I'm going to write Bob and Carol on there and I'm going to direct traffic into that room. All right. So Bob and Carol go in there. And then I'm going to go back into the kitchen or wherever it is that I've set up halfway through the house and wait. Okay. So Bob and Carol, they go through the master bedroom. You know, maybe they go through the living room. Maybe they see another room. Once Bob and Carol have seen the kitchen and seen the master bedroom, which includes the master bathroom, Bob and Carol know, A, this is my house, or I have no interest whatsoever. Agreed? They don't need to see the kids' room or the secondary room. They don't care about secondary room. Okay, ultimately they do, okay? But for our purposes, they don't care about that, right? Chances are they've seen, whether they've been outside or not, they've seen the outside, they've seen the pool, they've seen if there's a fence or if there's a house right behind or if there's a lake right behind or if there's woods right behind, they've seen it, okay? So If you wait too long, then Bob and Carol are just trying to get out of the house, okay? So I try to catch Bob and Carol about halfway through, after they've seen the master and after they've seen the kitchen. Every house is different, you have to figure out where your ambush point is. Right? It's an ambush point, that's what I call it, all right? So it's, at that point, I do the same thing 99% of the time, unless somebody else can hear me and I'm just kind of today, all right? So the first thing, so Bob and Carol are gonna walk through, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say, is this close, is this home close to something you're looking for? All right? Or does this home work for you? Okay, now, can they answer that with a yes or a no? Yes, they can, right? But the whole object at this point is you're not selling the house, you are selling yourself. You are simply trying to get leads out of it. They either like you and they're gonna work with you, or they don't like you and they're not gonna work with you. Here's what I don't do when people walk in the door, is I don't have my sign-in sheet and I go, sign in, sign in. I love the guys that go, the sellers really want you to sign in. Come on, that's a bunch of crap. The sellers don't care if you sign in or not, right? The way I look at it, and some people are some people do it differently than I do. Again, like I told you in the beginning, I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong, I'm just telling you what I do. If you force somebody to sign in on a sign-in sheet, what are you gonna do? Garbage in, garbage out, right? I'm not saying they're gonna some people will make up fake stuff. I've had people make up fake stuff and put it on there before, okay? Not very many, not as many as the guy who makes everybody sign in, okay? People don't like to be pushed to do something. I don't ever do it. My sign-up sheet is there. Occasionally, people will fill it out. Usually they don't. I don't really care, okay? My object at any open house is to leave there with a couple solid leads. If I walk out of an open house and I've got 2 or 3 solid leads, and I mean solid leads, I feel good, right? Doesn't always happen. I've left open houses, I get home, Jen says, how'd you do it? I go, that's stuck out. Man, I laid an egg and it's terrible. Did you have no traffic? No, I just sucked there. I don't know why, but I just wasn't any good, right? So it happened. But I'm trying to, anyway, I get off topic. So Bob and Carol come through and I say, is this something that works for you? Is this something close to what you're looking for? Somewhere along the lines of that, okay? Bob and Carol are going to say one of a couple things. They're going to say yes, they're going to say no, or they're going to start talking to you and tell you why this house sucks or why they love it, okay? The why they love it is slim to none, right? And if they do, great. Try to sell them the house, okay? Let's say Bob says no, this really isn't what we're looking for. Well, that's too bad. What are you looking for? If you're not looking for this, what are you looking for? Well, or why isn't this a good fit for you? Well, we kind of wanted 4 bedrooms. Oh, okay, all right. We really don't like this neighborhood. The home doesn't have a pool. We just stopped by here. We really don't like this neighborhood. Whatever it is, right? Once you ask Bob and Carol why this house doesn't work for them, they're going to start talking to you, and they're going to start telling you why this house is not good for them. And I keep a little white pad of paper. I didn't bring any today for audio visuals. Anyway, so I keep a little pad of paper, and it's like, well, we wanted 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms. You like this neighborhood? Are you from the area? Yeah, we live in, or we don't know anything about it. I said, okay. So you want 4 bedrooms? You want a pool and stuff like that? Yeah. So they start talking. I take out my pad of paper and I start writing stuff down right in front of them. Okay. Oh, you're looking for a 4 bedroom? Oh, okay, 4 bedroom. And they start talking, and then I ask them as many questions as I can possibly ask them without annoying the crap out of them. I'm going to ask them as many questions as I possibly can. Okay. You're looking for 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, blah, 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 all in this school district. Okay. And then again, it's questions. Where are you moving from? Right? I always use where are you moving from, just because I've lived in so many different places and I've traveled to so many different places. If I've not been there or lived there, it's actually kind of uncommon, right? It's all, or if they've got sports shirt on, I'll talk sports with them. Whatever it is to keep that conversation going, okay? The other thing you always want to do when you're trying to do this is you want to work in value and you want to work in knowledge, right? again, that's why I continue to do West Chase, because if there's a question about West Chase, I can answer and I know the answer, right? So I'm gonna work in as much knowledge as I can when I'm talking to people. I've had people tell me, oh yeah, we're working with an agent, right? There's nobody else in the house. I continue to have a good conversation with them, right? And I wow them with my knowledge of the area, right? And once they say they're working with an agent, I don't press anymore. I don't ask them any questions. I don't try to steal them, okay? One of two things is gonna happen there, in my opinion. If you try to steal that client, they're gonna be really turned off by it. Because the first thing they're gonna say is, we already have an agent. We've already told this guy to have an agent. Why is he trying to convert us? Why is he trying to get me, right? So what are they gonna think about me? They're gonna think I'm a sleazeball, okay? So, I'll even say it. I'm like, hey, if you've already got an agent, I don't coach, right? I'm not gonna coach. It's if I can answer any questions about the neighborhood or anything like that, you please let me know. And I can still continue to have a good conversation with them. I've had a number of people call me a month later, hey, we met you at an open house. And without saying it, so when I even said it, we don't like our current agent, we'd like to work with you. Flat out told me that, right? Because I A, didn't poach, and B, provide value. Anyway, so I start talking to Bob and Carol, and they're telling me what they want. And I'm having a good conversation. And I say, Bob, here's what I can do, Bob. Like, I know I can find you that house. As a matter of fact, I'm a buyer specialist here in the area, okay? So I tell them I'm a buyer specialist. Now, if it's a neighbor next door and there's nobody else in the house, what am I? I'm a listing specialist. They're going to list their house, right? So I'm telling them whatever they want to hear. Well, I'm actually, and this, as dumb as this sounds, this actually works because the average consumer out there is ignorant about what we do. They really are. They don't have any idea what we do. When I tell them I'm a buyer specialist in the area, oh, I should use this guy. He's a buyer specialist in the area. I just made that up, okay? But they don't know that, right? I'm a buyer specialist in the area. And I tell you what I can do. When I get home tonight, I'll get on my computer and let me do a little search for it, right? And I can send you some homes to look at that are going to completely fit your criteria and help you find something, right? What are they going to do? Oh, that's 95% of the time when I get to that point, hey, that's great, thanks. What's your email address, right? I'm not having them do the sign-in sheet, right? I'm writing down an email address. Sometimes they go, oh, it's a really, I tell you what, why don't you write it down for me just so I don't mess it up, right? Now, when they do that, read it back to them because people's penmanship horrible. I lost a really great lead one time because I couldn't read what the guy wrote. So, hey, also, so as soon as he gives you the email address, you say, hey, what's a good phone number for you, right? You'd be surprised. They will just rattle off their phone number. They'll just give it to you. There's no fight, right? You're like, oh my God, are they really gonna give me a phone number? And I'll joke around with them and I'll say, I'm not gonna spam you. You won't get any spam from me. I'm not giving your number to anybody. You text. I'm gonna shoot you a text when I send you something, just to make sure it doesn't go into your spam email. That's it. I'm not gonna bother. Okay. So I now know exactly what these people are looking for. I know where they want it. I've had a good conversation with them about whatever it is. Where are you moving from? Oh, I see you got a Bucks shirt on. Oh, I see you got a Rays shirt on. You saw him pull up in an Audi. Oh, I really like the Audi. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever, yeah. So like, but you're not salesy. You're not pushy. Okay. You're not, hey, you got to work with me now. So you've got all that information and you've got their email address. All right. So what did I not do? Okay. What I did not do is I didn't say, are you working with an agent? I didn't ask that question. Why? They'll lie to you, first of all. They'll say yes because they think that's, they'll get you to shut up, right? And 99% of the time, if they would lie to you, they're probably not going to work with you. But it doesn't matter, right? So I'm not going to ask them that. Maybe they are, and maybe they're not. But I don't know, so I'm not poaching, and I'm having a really great conversation with these people. And if I can convert them into something, I'm going to convert them into something, right? By the end of that conversation, they should like me better than the one they're current. If there's 17 degrees of working with an agent, okay? I've signed a brokerage agreement. I've looked at 100 houses. We've written 5 offers, and it's my cousin. Okay, that's working with an agent. You're not stealing that person. Okay. There's also, I met somebody in an open house a year ago, and I still get their spam. but that's all I get is their spam. Is that working with an agent? All right. So there's varying degrees of working with an agent, right? I have varying degrees of clients. I have clients that I know wouldn't buy a house without. I also have other clients that if you told me they bought a house through somebody else, I'd say, yeah, that's it. Right? It wouldn't surprise me at all. So I've got their name, I've got their email, I've got their phone number. Those are the things I need. Right? That's how I get that lead. The next part, I'm going to try to do that multiple times as people come through the house. Hopefully at the end, and I take that little piece of paper, I fold it, and I jam it, and I put it. Right? That's my technology that I use. Right? Hopefully I get home and I've got a bunch of pieces of paper jammed in my phone. What else is good? Oh, I'm just a looky-loo neighbor. There's no such thing as a bad lead walking into your open house. You're in your open house for a reason. Could be they just are looking to see what the neighbors, how do they update, or these people never come out of their house, they never talk to anybody. I just wanted to see what it looks like. All right. Oh, you live in the neighborhood. Yeah, great. Where do you live? I live in the neighborhood too, or I live across the street. Where do you live? Oh, we live over on Glenmont, or they may give you a street name, or they might give you a neighborhood. Oh yeah, like, and so if they give you a neighborhood, I'm gonna say, oh, you live in Woodbridge? Oh, so Woodbridge or Bennington? Oh, okay. You live on, and I might say a street. You live on Woodbridge Street, you live on Seymour, or whatever. I might say a street, and then they're gonna give me their street, right? As soon as those people walk out the door, I'm writing that down. I'm writing down on a pad of paper, and I'm gonna write Bob and Carol, they live on Woodbridge, okay? So I've now, even though they didn't really give me any information because they said they weren't looking, I still now have somebody to put in a command, and I've got at least a little bit of knowledge about them because I've had a great conversation with them, right? When I get home, I'm going to look up that street, and you can click on the bring the map up, you can click on it, and the owner's name will just pop up in front of you, right? So when the owner's names pop up in front of you, those people are getting a handwritten note from me, and they say, "Hey, Bob and Carol, great meeting you guys today. Something personal, whatever you talked about. I send out so many handwritten notes, it's not fun, right? So they're going to get a handwritten note from me. It was really nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to the open house. I got a call. It's been a couple of years now. I got a call from a girl. Her name was Brina. I looked up Brina. She lived on Woodbridge, and that's Woodbridge. You don't know the name of the street, doesn't it? Hey, this is Brina. We met a couple of years at an open house. Yes, Brina, how are you? I did actually remember Brina because it's kind of an uncommon name, and I looked and I found and his name was Pip, and his actual name is Curtis, whatever. So I found it. So I sent him an email and said, or I sent him a handwritten note. Thank you so much, blah, 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 right? A year later, they called me and said, hey, we're moving. We'd like you to sell our house. All right, great phone call. Go, I show up to their house. I have a great conversation with them. I ended up listing their house. They're buying another house up in Bexley. End up selling them the house in Bexley. They were there for a couple years. Hey, Eric, we don't like Bexley anymore when you list my house, right? So I list their house in Bexley. They moved to Miami, and I get them a referral down there. They end up buying a $600,000 house down there. So I got it was a big referral. It was like $4 or $5 grand referral that I get down there, right? So I've now cashed 3 checks and a referral out of these people. The day I was leaving, on the day I was leaving on the very first appointment I had with them, I'm walking out the door, and Brina, and at this point we're friends, we're chummy, right? And Brina says, Eric, she goes, cards on the table. We called you because you sent us a handwritten note. I shit you not, that's what they said, right? And not 3 pieces of business later, right? And a lot of money later, like, yeah. So they're still good friends of mine. They're living down in Miami, but they still, if they need a realtor, they still call. Go.
How much after you get their name, they're like, oh, send me some listings. If they go unresponsive, like
I'll get to the next step. Yeah.
on the handwriting note, if they have an agent, I can have their address.
Did they flat out tell me they had an agent?
I had someone sign on my sign sheet that's not to contact them.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna.
But they left the.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that. Yeah. But again, I'm not asking that question. If they volunteer, they volunteer. But I'm not asking that question, right? Now, okay, that's not true. Let's say you've really chosen the right house and you are slammed, like there's so many people in this house, right? And you've got to make a decision between Bob, John, and Dave, right? And I've got to make a decision quick. Then I will ask if they're working with an agent. Only because if I got to rule them out, I want to rule them out real quick and I want to move to John and Dave. That's the only time I'm ever asking, are you working with an agent? And I really try to avoid it at all costs.
They'll tell you if they are or not interested.
Well, here's what happens. You have a conversation with Dave. Dave's a friendly guy. He's the nicest guy in the world. Dave's one of those guys that goes to Walmart and talks to people for hours. Great guy, right? And you talk to Dave for 20 minutes. You spent 20 minutes with Dave. Meanwhile, you're thinking, hey, this is a good lead. This is a good lead. Meanwhile, 4 other groups have been through the house that you haven't said anything, but hey, let me know if you have any questions. Because that's all I do if I'm working a lead, right? Bird in the hand, right? And then you get 20 minutes into it with Dave and he goes, man, this is a tough market. You know, my wife's in it. You know, it's son of a, and you just wasted 20 minutes with Dave. Nice guy. Don't get me wrong. Nice guy, but nice guys. Like if I don't bring home money, then he gets real mad, right? So nice guy and all, but I just wasted 20 minutes with him and maybe lost 4 other people, or at least a couple that I could have got out of it, right? So that's the only time I'm ever going to ask if you're working with an agent, is when I'm so busy that I've got to make that decision. Okay. We've done the ambush. See, basically, I use the same phrasing of words all the time. Is this helping you or not helping you? Okay. Does it always work? No. If it always worked, then I'd be a genius and I'd just do millions. If I wrap up my open house, I stay till, you know, unless I really have someplace to go, I'm staying till 10 minutes after. I'm never in a hurry to do that. I really don't have any responsibilities. Like I have no kids. I don't have to do this, so it doesn't matter. If it's Sunday and I want to watch football, let's go. So I get home, you know, I've got my little piece of paper from Bob and Carol, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in command. You guys use command for your CRM or whatever you use, whatever. I used to use Edge, now I use command. So I'm going to go into command and I'm going to put in Bob, phone number, address, or whatever, all the information I have on. And then on the right-hand side, there's a little note section, right? And I'm going to put in there, I'm going to type in there everything I remember about Bob. Bob's moving here from Maine. We talked about lobster. We talked about football. He's a Patriots fan. Anything I can remember about Bob, I'm going to type it in there for 2 reasons. Number one, someday I might have to reference back to that, right? And I've had to do that before, like the horse race people. And whenever I type something in or write something down, I'm going to remember it, right? So I run into Bob at Publix or whatever. Hey, Bob, Patriots are looking good. How do you remember? Bob, my job, buddy. I remember everything. I'm great with fun, right? I ran into a lady the other day. She walked by me and I knew it for some days. And I said, hey, Caroline, how you doing? She looked at me like all stalkerish. And I said, we've actually met. And I said, not a stalker. We met before. She said, no. I said, yeah, it was about 2 years ago in an open house over on Woodbridge. She goes, oh my God, you remember my name? Yeah. Sat there and had a nice 5-minute conversation. Anyway, so some people, like, I've done an open house. I did an open house in, what's that? Excuse me. Doesn't matter. On one day, I met 3 different people. I met Omar, I met Prasanna, and I met John. I sold all 3 of them the house. They were all like between 430 and 450. They were almost 2 years and 2 months since I met them before I actually sold them the house, right? Just happened to be they all happened to convert in like the same summer, right? And it took 2 years for them to do it, but I kept in touch with them. A little bit here, a little bit there, you know, and then they got serious about it and they bought it and I sold them the house. I'm getting ready to sell Omar's house next month. It's easy with them. John and Britton just had twins and they already had one. So now that's 3 by my count. And they're gonna need a bigger house and I know it. So I'm getting ready to do it. I know they're gonna sell. John and Britton gave me their mom, who I'm getting ready to sell her house. Her son, I'll find out. But anyway, it's sometimes it takes 3 years and sometimes it's all like the same little scrap pieces of paper in my pocket. Right? Anyway, to answer your question. Open house is done, I get home. Everything's going in command first, right? I'm gonna write a bunch of notes about Bob, just so I remember. I'm gonna get on MLS, I'm gonna draw a search around I'm gonna put Bob's basic criteria, right? One of the questions I ask when I'm doing the ambush, I'll say, are you willing to do any work? Right? Some people want turnkey ready, some people are willing to do some work. I always ask that question. Right? What's work mean? Well, work means something different to everybody in my opinion, right? Some people like, picking up a paintbrush and painting a 10 by 10 room. That's a lot of work. To other people, it's remodeling a kitchen in the back, right? So everybody's got their own threshold for what work means. And I ask them. So I get on MLS, I put Bob in there as a client. I put his name, I put his email in there, and I email Bob. And anyway, I look up Bob's criteria. Hopefully, like again, in this market, it's tough, right? It's tough because there's not that many houses out there. But pre-COVID and post-COVID, which is coming up right away, I hope. So I'm going to let's say I get 5 hits for Bob, okay? I'm not going to show him everything in the world, but I'm going to give Bob a little tip, right? You got to give him a little bit of free drugs before you charge him for drugs. So I'm going to say, Bob, here's 123 Main Street. It's got the 4 bedrooms, it's got the pool, it's got the good lot you're looking for, right? And I'm going to write him a little paragraph about 123 Main Street. Put a little effort into it, right? I'm not just, what does a typical realtor do? Rifles off some listings, sends it away to Bob and hopes he gets lucky, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at 123 Main Street. I'm going to put some things he likes in there. Hey, I think you might like this. I think you might like that. I'm going to do that for 2 or 3, right? I'm going to pick the 2 or 3 I think are going to be a good fit for Bob, and I'm going to email him these 2 or 3, right? And I'm also going to pick a dog. 100% I know he doesn't like this house, right? And I'm going to say, okay, Bob, here's 124 Main Street. I really want to be thorough, and I don't want to miss anything. But I really don't, and I really don't think this house is for you, but I just want to be sure I leave no stone unturned, right? And I'm going to send Bob that listing, and I'm going to say, Bob, this is why I don't think this is your house, right? And if you've had a good conversation with Bob, all it takes is picking up on 2 or 3 things that he says he doesn't like. I don't want to do any work. I have to have a pool. I might say, Bob, it's got no pool, but it's got the room to do it. Whatever it is. But I'm going to send Bob a dog. And the reason I'm going to send Bob a dog, because he's sitting there at night with Carol, and they're watching Law and Order, and he's reading this email, and he's going to say, boy, that Eric guy really paid attention. Because not only did he pick out some houses that he kind of liked, he's also showed us something that he knows we don't, and he listens. He knows we don't. He knows this house is not going to fit for him. And that's why I'm going to send Bob the dog. So.
For the person that is around, like, what the open house is gonna have to do.
I'm going to ask him, that's one of the questions I ask him. When I play 50 questions with them, do you care about schools? Do you care if you have to do any work? Do you want a pool? Do you want a fenced yard? Do you know what neighborhood you want to be in? Right? 1-story, 2-story. I mean, I will go and ask Bob as many questions as Bob will let me ask, right? And I'm writing it all down on a little pad of paper, right? So.
You asked me for free, is that one?
I'll get to that. That's another little thing I'll do, right? So I think when you meet people in a $400,000 house, you can tell who's got the money to purchase a house and who doesn't. Okay? That's really bad advice for me to be giving anybody. Okay, that's really dumb. Don't say that, right? So are you going to waste your time and get in the car and drive Bob around and look at a bunch of houses if you don't know his food? No, you're not. Okay? But let's say it's Tuesday and Bob calls you and says, hey, one of those houses really works for us. All right? One of those houses really works for us. Now, again, my days usually consist of, I like to watch Friends like from that noon to 2 o'clock slot. I got no kids. I have no responsibilities. My wife would yell at me to work more, but essentially if there's nothing to do, I don't have anything to do, right? I'm not saying anything to do, but I've got time, right? I'm sure everybody here, I'm sure, is busier than I am, I promise. Okay? Now, am I gonna pop out and show Bob one house? Yep. Is that wrong? Probably. It's probably a waste of my time to go show Bob one house. But if I've got nothing going on, I'm gonna go show Bob one house. That's just the way it is. Now, we're in a house. It's one-on-one, it's private. I've got my second meeting with Bob. That's my buyer's consultation that I'm doing right there. And I've got him cornered and I'm doing the buyer's consultation, right? I used to try to get people come to the office and do buyer's consultation with me. Super hard to execute that, right? Super hard to execute. Have I executed it? Yes. But if I didn't do this other method, I'd have about 1/10 of the business that I have. So yes. So is Bob pre-approved? It's an excellent question to ask. You just have to ask it the right way. Okay. If I'm in an open house and I say, we talked about all this stuff, I have a good conversation with Bob, and they say, Bob, are you pre-approved? What is Bob thinking to say? This guy won't work with me unless he knows my financials, right? Right? But here's the way around that. Bob, is somebody helping you with the mortgage? Because I've got a great guy. And I keep a stack of his cards at my open houses at all times. And I know my guy will answer the phone on a weekend. Always will answer the phone on a weekend, right?
Do you ever have the leader of there? I had a loan officer come by mine yesterday and I thought that was strange at first.
Over the years, I've had a number of them do that. I've got one guy that I work with most of the time who's awesome. I've got another guy that I'll go to. And I've got a guy after that I'll go to, right? This guy, he will, so here's the other thing. I'm never getting a kickback from him. I'm never, ever getting a piece of business out of this guy because his wife is a realtor. But I don't care. He has pre-approved me people when he was on vacation. He was sitting in Wrigley Field on the phone talking to me when he got himself pre-approved. He was in Jamaica or Costa Rica. I don't remember which one it was. It was someplace down there. He got right. He was at Disney one time and he said, I'll be back to the hotel this afternoon and I'll get you something. Okay. That's how this guy works, right? He's got great rates. He's a good guy. Now, and I always tell him, my conversation with Rich goes like this. Rich, I feel bad bothering you when I know you're on vacation. Eric, if I don't want you to call me, I'll flat out tell you. Otherwise, you call me every single time. If I can't do it, I won't do it. But for God's sakes, don't ever not call me. I go, okay, I'll call it. I'll call it sucker at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. What are you doing, Rich? Barbecuing? Great. You got a pen and a pad of paper out there with you? This person's going to call you. I need him pre-approved tomorrow. All right, I'll get it done. That's what he does. Don't have his card at all.
Do you call him beforehand for your client to reach out to him? Let him know?
I might shoot him a text and say, hey, Bob's going to call you and ask about you. He knows how. I mean, we've done this so many times that he knows, because he always asks, where'd you get my name? I got it from a guy named, oh, Eric, yeah, he's a great guy. You met him in Oakland, steady. Yeah, but no, yeah, that's where it comes from. I knew him there right there, and I did this speech. I'm sure they have lenders over there that are just but I love that guy and I use them all. So I've done dozens of upgrades with this guy. He's never missed a date. And he wants you to call him 9 o'clock at night. So yep. All right. So anyway, so I'm going to get that email and I'm going to give him a little taste. Right. And then I'm going to follow up with a phone call or a text message. Or a lot of times when I'm doing my little ambush thing, I'll ask them, what's your preferred method of communication? You don't want emails? I don't want to bother you. You don't want phone calls? I don't want to be that guy. I'm never going to scam you. I don't want to be that guy. You tell me how we're going to converse. Okay? There you go. You're always doing what he wants. I hate it when people say Facebook Messenger. I'm terrible at it. Like, my Facebook Messenger will go unanswered for weeks. But, yeah, bless you. But yeah, so I'm gonna give them a little taste. I'm gonna try to get them one-on-one. I'm gonna send them some listings. We're gonna have some good conversations. Hopefully I'm gonna sell a guy a house. And then from there, it's just regular realtor work, however you convert the people. We've gotten past the lead gen part of it.
How do you like that time?
Open house.
Just
So-
to, just to know.
So we've got varying, so we've probably got 7 or 8 tags in there. One just says open house. The top of the top people are called HW letters. They're called handwritten letters. And once a month I do something with those people, right? There's maybe 100 people in there, a couple hundred, I don't know how many in there. No, like, not related to open houses, but we've got a little lead gen system that we use. My wife pays for it through somebody. It's not expensive, but they tell you every month what to do. So yes, in September, I wrote probably 100 books.
36 times.
I think so. It's from a guy though. It's
Here's one.
no, it's not. I think it begins with an M. I'm really not joking.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. I'm not. Like every month will come up and I'll say, what am I doing this month? And she'll hand me a copy of the script. She prints it big so I can see it because my eyesight's terrible. She'll hand me a list of people, she'll print out the HW list for me, and she'll say, I ordered you stationery, get ready. I'm trying to figure out how to. My handwriting is terrible, so all of a sudden I started having somebody else do it. They probably pick up that, hey, it's not Eric's chicken scratch anymore, and then realize I wasn't doing it. So I'm trying to get like one of the neighborhood kids with really bad handwriting, pay him like 50 cents a note or something like that. Oh, it's an excellent idea. I'm sure that'll get down. But yeah, so that's what we do. That's what we do to convert those people. And sometimes it's super quick. Like I said, I close one. You know, people will say, oh, if you want instant business, do open houses. That's crap, right? Open houses, yes. Is there instant business there? Yes. But there's a ton of long-term planning, a ton of long-term planning. I'm still dealing with people that I met in 2016. Now, I'm not saying I'm showing them houses every weekend, right? But I'm keeping in touch with them. And like, oh yeah, we're thinking about it. And so maybe they look at a couple houses in 2017. They'll do it. I showed them a couple houses, no big deal, right? But I kept in touch with them. Finally got one from 2016. She made offers, but they ended up getting the divorce. Her credit wasn't enough to swing it. His was, but now she's like, all right, well, 1 year from now, then I'm going to buy a house. And I know she's going to use me, and I know she's dead loyal to me. So yeah, she will eventually buy a house. You got, again, like, yeah, people will tell you like, oh yeah, like open houses, that's the way to go for instant income. No, is there some there? Yes. Right? You'll pick up a client and get them under contract and get paid within 2 months sometimes. But you also got to have people in the pipeline. You got to have people for 2 years from now, right? And when you sell something, you still keep in contact with those people because those are good leads.
How are you contacting? How?
Varies, whatever my wife tells me to do each one.
That's what you were saying, that.
So
that
whatever I get
someone
told.
tells you to do?
whatever she tells me.
She'll tell you, do you have like how often are you talking to people?
I think it's every month.
Okay.
I mean, there's some months we'll skip, like, oh, they're doing a wine party or something. I'm not doing a wine party, right? But instead I'll do like a handwritten note. Or maybe it's just a text, happy Halloween, how are you guys doing? You know, sometimes it's something simple. Sometimes we aren't so like, and again, this is not open house stuff, but four times a year we do a pop buy, right? And it's something that my wife buys like super cheap, like it's $1 candle or something like that. The last one was $1 candle, and it said, I don't remember what it was like. She put it in a little bag and had a little card on something with a little ribbon and something on it, and it said, "Use a realtor that makes sense," but it's SCNs, whatever, right? And she goes, okay, these are for our top 20 people or whatever, people that give me referrals, right? So am I driving a Riverview with one of those candles? No, okay? Unless it's somebody who's really giving me a lot of referrals, and you know what?
And you
But-
handle overdose?
I hand deliver those. I drop them off at people's house. You can get a local high school kid to do it for you. Again, it's just, all it is cutting into my law and order time, right? So the cats don't get as much attention from me. That's fine. I got time to do it. I get for other people, you need to have some sort of system where you're not, where you're not doing it. For people like adults with responsibilities and stuff. I'm just not one of them. Yeah. So, couple more things. I've gotten leads from, if you're new to the business, go look at homes. Go look at homes. Learn how to use your lockbox. Go look at homes. When you're doing an open house and any education you can give yourself, you're showing value at an open house, right? So look at, remember, like, it's like the 10-4. You guys learned the 10-4 tonight or whatever, right? Add 10 people in your database, handwritten notes, go look at homes. That stuff works. That lady that said, I hate KW realtors, I converted her because I had looked at homes. And in a lot of the houses she asked about, I had seen because they were vacant and they were in the area. That's one of the reasons I converted it. The handwritten notes, I know I've converted people out of those handwritten notes. Do those things. Secondly, take care of your fellow realtors. Anytime I get a closing and it came from a certain realtor, they are going to get a handwritten card from me, and it's going to have a Starbucks card in it. And the Starbucks card gets bigger every time I close them. There's a girl named Brittany who works for, it was Town Chase Property, which nobody's ever heard of. It's a little boutique in our neighborhood. But now she's with Bahara, maybe? I don't know. But I got her home address and I know where she lives. Okay. And I closed a bunch of stuff out of her. And it was like right in a row out of the same house. I closed. Brittany's getting a nice handwritten card with, thank you so much. You let me do an open house. I just want to tell you, one of the leads I closed the other day. I hope you like Starbucks, whatever I put in there. And I sent it to you, right? So I did this for whatever reason. Brittany, I think I did like 4 transactions right in a row out of her listing. The house I double dipped on my own street came from her. That was a $24,000 check. It was, at the time, my biggest check ever, right? So, yeah, Brittany ended up, I think the last gift card I sent her was a $50 Starbucks card. And I ran into her at the airport a couple of years ago. Now, I've only met Brittany in person one time. And it was at an open house that she happened to come through with her client. She said, I'm Brittany. I was like, she was my listing. Oh, Brittany. Yeah, nice to meet you, right? I didn't know who she was. So a woman said she was Brittany walking through. I wasn't thinking who's Brittany, right? She runs up to me at the airport and gives me a hug. Met this woman one time, right? But now, Brittany, if I call Brittany right now and say, you got anything coming up for me? She'd give me an open house. Still not my book. But, and there's probably a dozen realtors that I've done that for. Take care of your realtors. You never know when you're going to be in a multiple offer situation. You never know when you're going to be on the other side of the table from them. Take care of your realtors, even the ones you don't like. Anybody have any questions about what I do and how I convert them? No,
Don't do any cold calls.
I'm not a fan of that. Trying to do that, I just try to get one. It's just not my cup of tea. Again, like, I'm an in-person dude. I don't even like these freaking look. I'm sorry I didn't really look at you guys all day long, but there were people in the room, and it's hard for me to look at a computer screen, but I hope they're all doing fantastic. And if you have questions, pop yourself off mute and ask me, and I hope you got something out of this. I'm an in-person person, right? So some people are like that. I'm horrible on the phone. I'm just horrible on the phone. Like the socially awkward guy at the party. Yeah, I'm just bad on the phone. But you put me in a group of people, I'm fine. Now, like when it's now you put me in a group of friends, I'm like a shy one. But you put me in a group of people that I can turn into business and money, yeah, I'm good. So, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I'm good. And I convert people like that. Should have been a salesman. And you're not salesmen, you're consultants helping people buy houses. If you think you can sell somebody, you'll have to. Any other questions?
When you're looking for your open house, the house that you're gonna hold an open on, do you prefer vacant? I missed that little part, like the sound cut out. Were you looking specifically for vacant preferred, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier. Sorry, I'm talking to the TV station. It's easier to do a vacant, in my opinion. You don't have to, like, I've had homes that were, especially when it's not your listing, right? So it's not your listing, you're going into somebody else's home. You've never been in the home before. You don't know what pets they have. You don't know the condition of the home. I had one, I showed up, 10 minutes early, all dressed and everything, because I don't know these people. I'm not gonna go change in their home, right? So I showed up all dressed. I'm sweating, and the lady hooks up the door, she goes, yes, I'm like, I'm doing an open house here today. Well, it was like 20 minutes, and she shut the door. I'm like, what? It's like 5 minutes too, what are you doing, lady? Right? So I find it easier to do open houses. Now, beggars and choosers, the market we're in, you get what you can get right now. But in general, yes, I prefer vacant homes. It's just so much easier. I bring a beach chair with me. I make a joke out of it. I say, that blue chair there does not come with the house, that's my fishing chair. So. Yes. Oh, God. It happens too. Like, I was like, so I tell my listing people, I was like, listen, if somebody makes an appointment at 4 o'clock, get out of your house at 3:45. Yeah, just don't do that. Don't do that.
Last night I did this hour.
Yeah. You're like, get out. You're really not helping. Yeah, so oh yeah, and you're not gonna get a dime out of that. And they probably cost you more. Get out. Yeah, oh yeah, you can't. No, you can't, especially not somebody in the office, right? I'll tell you, whenever I'm in the home, right? And somebody, inevitably, somebody at an open house will tell you, do you think this home is priced right? It's not your listing, right? And somebody's gonna ask you, do you think this home is priced right? What do you say? Very, very, very careful about what you say. Any conversation I have with somebody in an open house, I assume that's the owner. It's not, okay? But I assume it's the owner. Let's say that house is grossly overpriced by $50,000 and you know it. And you're trying to pick up this person as a lead. What do you say? That's tough, right? You gotta wiggle out of that. I'm telling you, wiggle out of it. You say, you know what? It's beauty in the eye of the beholder, or not necessarily that. This house has a ton of positives going for it, you know. Well, once I'm 99% sure that this is not the person, I might say, maybe they want to touch this. But that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying this house is overpriced. I'm just going to kind of hint at it a little bit, but I'm going to be darn sure that that's not the owner. Again, everything I tell you that I've done wrong. It wasn't the owner, but it was his friend. Sometimes, like back in the day when I was really doing open houses at a high level, I was really banging them out. My wife would run me comps and print them so I could bring them with me, right? But like, honestly, the number of times I use those.
So like if they did justify, that's like what I'm getting out of that conversation.
I just don't want to have that conversation. And people will, once you start skirting the issue, people know exactly what you're doing. They know that you don't want to be committal to, you don't want to be pigeonholed. Yeah, you don't want to be pigeonholed. Any other questions out there in Zooland?
What time frames have you found on Saturday and Sunday? Or if you had to pick one, which do you typically go for? 3 hour.
I usually do 1 to 4, 12 to 3. I don't think, I've done a number of different, so I used to do, when I first started and I had nothing going on and I had no business, I would do Tuesday evenings. I would do 3 to 6 Tuesday. I would do Fridays, Fridays. And obviously Saturday and Sunday are your best times. If you're a brand new agent and all you're doing is watching Law & Order and playing with the cats, you know what, give Friday a chance, do 3 to 6 or something. But in general, I do 1 to 4 on Saturday and 1 to 4 on Sunday. Or 12 to 3. I don't think it makes a difference. You can do a little bit earlier if you want. Honestly, if you pick the right house, as long as you're giving it a 3-hour window and you're not too early and you're not too late, I think Saturday, I think they're all fairly equal, to be honest with you. I just do 1 to 4 just because I do.
No, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions out there in Zoom land? Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. That was super helpful.
Thank you.